What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast. I'm Eric, Mr. Cincinnati Robinson, and as always, I'm joined by the podcast dad himself, Chris Hoops. Hoops, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me as always. But we have a guest, so don't let me talk as much. Let's get right to it.
Absolutely, yes. So our next guest this week is a trainee from the House of Truth. He is the current Emerge Heavyweight Wrestling Champion. He is Paragon. Paragon, how are you, man? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. You can also add the Frontline Pro Battle Champion. I actually won that last weekend. So, dripping in gold.
Congratulations.
Dripping in gold, yes.
We love it. We love it. Hey,
we love having champions.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, my goal is to get back to where I was back in 22. I was Perry 5 belt, so I'm trying to get back to that. I'm holding 5 championships in 2 different coasts, 3 different time zones, 3 different states.
Wow. How tired were you in 2022?
Man, let's put it like this. There was one weekend where on a Thursday, I was at OVW in Kentucky. On a Friday, I had to fly to Seattle to wrestle that Friday and that Saturday. Had to come back that Sunday to wrestle in Michigan. And then the following week, I then had to travel to Indiana on a Friday to wrestle. Then I had to travel to Baltimore, Maryland on a Saturday, and then come back and wrestle in Ohio on a Sunday. So 6 shows in less than 2 weeks, which for some people, they're like, oh, that's a dream, but that tiredness is real. That tiredness
yeah. Well, no, it makes sense. I mean, and we're definitely going to get into all that here, but we're gonna take it back to the beginning here, okay? Because here at the Wrestling Junkies podcast, we believe wrestlers are superheroes, and every superhero has an origin story of some kind. So, Paragon, tell us about your earliest memories of pro wrestling.
My first memory of pro wrestling was my Uncle Craig sitting me down. And my Uncle Craig was a fast talker. He had a very big personality about himself. And he kept trying to get my grandmother to let him hang out with me one-on-one. He was my grandmother's brother. So he's my great uncle, but he was, like in his 40s or something. Mm-hmm. And he was always like, you need to come let him hang with me. Let him hang with me just one day. Let him hang with me just one day. And so he then tried to convince my grandmother to let me spend the night because by the time she was going to come pick me up, it was going to be about 7 p.m. No. I want to show him something. You go ahead. And you want to stay with me. So I'm excited because I'm like, shoot, I'm normally about to be in bed here soon. It's almost 9 o'clock and he wants me to stay up and hang out or whatever. And he introduced me to Monday Night Raw's War.
Okay.
And at first it was kind of cool. I'm seeing all these colorful people and things like that. I was kind of getting hooked on it. Because I'm like, yo, this is like superheroes right here.
Yeah.
And then I saw somebody on the TV and my eyes lit up. And my uncle goes, yeah, you see that boy right there? That is the future of professional wrestling. You watch it. That's going to be the future right there. And he was talking about Rocky Maivia.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm sitting here hearing the die Rocky die and Rocky sucks and all this crap. And I'm like, why do they like him? He's kind of cool to me. He goes, they just don't know how great he's going to be yet. They don't know how great he's going to be. A few months later, he comes back, Nation of Domination. Now, mind you, I've been watching Raw every single Monday with my uncle since that moment right there. And then when I saw him come back as Nation of Domination, I was like, yeah, I love wrestling. So that is probably my earliest memory of professional wrestling. I was 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
One of my first memories ever is wrestling. So,
Uncle's got a good eye.
Yep.
Don't let him hear you say that because I hear him in heaven right now. See, I told you.
No, I mean he was right because Rocky Maivia is still around. So
who'd have thought in 2024? Seriously.
Yeah. We're gonna stay back in the time machine. I'm gonna go back to 2004. No Way Out. Eddie Guerrero versus Brock Lesnar. What stands out about that match that inspired you to become a wrestler?
So that was the match, I will say, where I fell in love with the idea of being a wrestler. That wasn't the moment I decided I was going to become one. I just was like, yo, this is something I want to do. As a brown person growing up, especially during that time, you didn't see a lot of people who looked like you, nor people who were successful in the business at that point in time. The closest thing we had was The Rock, and at that point, he was kind of gone. And also, The Rock, he had a name to himself. He had the wrestling family. He also was a bigger guy. I was the runt. in my family. I was the tough one. I was the problem child. I was the fighter. But the thing was, one of the reasons was because I was a small one. And I always found myself being the smaller guy in the fight, and yet I wasn't losing that fight. I felt like I had too much to fight for. And seeing someone like Eddie who had his demons and overcame them, who went through so much, and yet he never stopped fighting. He fought for La Raza. He fought for his family. He fought for his people. And that's literally what I was doing as a kid. You know, I was the bully of the bullies. If I saw you bullying somebody, now you got a problem with me. I was the one you talk bad about my family. Now we got a real problem. You know, I stood up for people, and although that may have got me in trouble, I didn't care because I knew what I was doing was right. And so when I watched that match, and I had already kind of, I'm young too at this point, but I had already kind of become trained to know, oh, it's right before WrestleMania, and the good guys sometimes don't beat the bad guys unless they're this, unless they're that. And so in my mind, especially because I come from a very diverse background, I have a Theo, I have an uncle that looks like Eddie Guerrero. So seeing someone who in my mind looks like me or looks like my family be able to topple the unbeatable giant, to me that was everything. And it showed me if he could do it, I could do it too. And my dream was to be a wrestler because in that moment I was like, yo, if I can be just a fourth of what he is, I can be something amazing. Now, the moment where I decided I was going to become a wrestler was actually when I found out he passed. My whole entire career is a tribute to Eddie. Everything I do is a tribute to Eddie. I'm finally getting my Eddie tribute gear made, actually. Nice. Which I can't wait for that to come out and people to see that, because I always stay having the the flyest gear. I'm the coldest of all time, so I got to make sure I got it popping. But yeah, the day he passed away, I looked up at heaven and I said, "This is for you." And I've dedicated my life since age 10 to trying to make this dream come true in honor of my hero.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, and that dovetails perfectly in the question that I have for you. As far as what is your inspiration for your ring gear? You have a lot of flash, a lot of vibe and pageantry that you don't necessarily always see in a lot of wrestlers. You've got face paint, but you also have a mask too. You've got the big coat, you've got the big jewelry. Where does all this come from?
So I'm gonna actually peep y'all on game. I've never told anybody this when it comes to the mask and the face paint.
Okay.
So I always loved entrance masks. I always thought it was cool. And when I was first coming out, a lot of people didn't really have entrance masks. So it was something I wanted to do to set me apart, make me different. Shout out Rockwell Mask. I was actually one of their, I wasn't their first customer. I was one of his first customers, especially when he was really getting into it. Because I believe it was the Chris brothers, Sammy Callahan, and me. We were his first couple of customers. Yep. Which shout out Ohio. Ohio over everything.
Hey.
That's
what we're based out of. So
I know. I'm saying shout out, but so because of that, I love entrance masks, and one of my trainers, not Truth Martini, but Paul Bowser, was like, "Hey man, can I talk to you for a second?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, sure." He's like, "What's with the entrance mask?" And I'm like, "I think it's cool." He goes, "Yeah, but then you take off the mask, you're just a regular motherfucker underneath." He's like, "Don't be Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat 2. If you look at the movie Mortal Kombat 2, Shao Kahn's got this badass mask, and he's all cool and stuff, and he takes his mask off, and he's just a regular-looking dude. No one really cares anymore." He's like, "You identify the mask with him." And so that's part of the reason why, when I have my big match feels, I try to have the face paint on, because to me, I'm revealing there's more to it. I'm not just the regular guy underneath. But I normally try to save it for big matches, because it is the voodoo side of me when I got to tap into that darker side to take out an opponent. But when it comes to the Flash, one, a lot of people in wrestling don't understand that we are peacocking. There has to be pageantry. Yeah. Once upon a time, there was a lot of pageantry. On the indies, there's so many people so focused on their wrestling, and some of them need to be. Some of them need to be.
Yeah.
But they don't focus on standing out.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a good wrestler. Okay, I can throw a rock and find about 250 of you. But I can't throw a rock and find more than one Paragon. No one's going to look like me. No one's going to talk like me. No one's going to carry themselves like me. I'm not a professional wrestler. I'm a brand. And that's sometimes what sets me apart from other wrestlers. So I'm going to be flashy, because I want the moment I step through that curtain, if you don't know who I am, you want to get to know who I am. If you don't know maybe what my wrestling persona is about, you at least are creating an idea in your mind. You're thinking Killmonger or Sabretooth, or you're thinking Kraven the Hunter. And then the more you get to know about me, you watch my promos or whatever, you're like, yo, this guy is like Kraven meets Hannibal Lecter. Like, this is some whole different thing going on. But then you take off the coat, you put him in the suit, and he's kind of got that Cottonmouth from Luke Cage vibes. Like, he's on a whole different playing field.
Yeah.
It's because, one, I don't just pull from wrestling. To pull from wrestling is to pretty much show wrestling what they've already seen.
Yeah.
And I would say the best thing Truth Martini, my main trainer, ever taught me, and I would say he taught many other wrestlers this in the business. See what is missing in professional wrestling and be it. And if you think about it, a lot of people in wrestling, I want to be the next this, and I want to be the second that. Why? That's a waste of your potential. That's a waste of your life trying to be a copycat of somebody else. But if you could see what's missing in wrestling right now and be that, that's where the bookings come from. That's where the championships come from. That's where the money comes from. That's where. Are we allowed to cuss on here?
We already have, so
that's
fine.
where the hoes come from. That's where the hoes come from, okay? And when I say hoes has no gender, okay? Because anybody can have hoes. But that's where the hoes comes from, standing out and being different. Hell, I got mothers and daughters fighting over who gets a turn. They both swallow all my greatness till they get heartburn, okay? I got sisters in my DMs right now claiming I'm their man. Little do they know, neither of them can have access to me. That's what I'm talking about. You got to be different. You got to stand out, okay? Hey, you laughing. There's a reason they call me Mr. 23 Positions and 1,000 Submissions, okay? You better find out now.
Man, what a promo. That's good. That's good.
No notes whatsoever.
That's good. Yeah, no, that was. Yeah, I love that you shout out the Chris brothers and Sammy Callahan. I remember in high school going to HWA shows and watching them in front of like 20 people. That was always a good time. Same thing with Truth Martini. Great impression too. I remember him cutting promos in a barn up in Dayton for Jay Lethal. That was great times.
What a time, yeah.
Current Emerge Wrestling Champion. Tell us about the big win.
I'm going to be honest with you. It was hard fought. A lot of people don't realize I put my body through it in that match. And it wasn't just a big match. It was a loser leaves town match. And when I beat my opponent, I retired him.
Oh, wow.
So, like, he is gone from wrestling. He's not coming back. We put our careers on the line because we knew that we couldn't keep doing this. As long as we were in the same atmosphere, we were going to not let the sleeping dogs lie. And it had to be that way. You can't have two people trying to be the top of the food chain. That's the whole thing of why I'm the world's most dangerous game. I'm the world's most dangerous game because I am calling out all the predators of professional wrestling, saying I'm the top of the food chain. I'm the apex. I'm the alpha. I'm the end all be all. And I will face anybody to prove that. But the thing is, while he was holding that championship, he has all rights and claims to that throne. But my problem was, you could never beat me straight up. Anytime we faced each other, you had to have help. How can you say that you are the king sitting on high on the throne, that you haven't beat the rightful king to claim? And we fought. We went through war. I took a golf club to the face.
Oof.
And when everything was said and done, my hand was raised. The crowd went crazy after I made him pass out from my submission, the Wilcox clutch. And he left his boots in the ring. He tried to walk away, and I picked him up, and we actually had an emotional moment. We hugged, we embraced. I raised his hands, and he went from being the most hated person in Emerge to he got a "Thank You, Daniel" chant on his way out. And to me, that's part of storytelling. That's part of what we do in this business. I tell people I'm not in the wrestling business. I'm in the movie, the moment, and the memory-making business.
3 M's. I like
that's
it.
what we're doing out there. Like think about your favorite match ever. Like truly your favorite match. You're not remembering all the moves, but you're remembering the moments that caught your eye, the moments that reminded you or made you a fan. You're thinking about the memory you had when you felt that.
Yeah.
And how when you look back at it in your mind, it probably plays cinematically like a movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's the business I'm in. I want that kid who's had a rough week at school, or that plumber, or that janitor, or maybe that businessman, all those people that they came to spend their hard-earned money to lose themselves in that moment. That day they were looking forward to, whether you cheer me or whether you boo me. I want you to get lost in the movies and the stories I'm trying to create. And I want you to go home with a memory you not only take back with you, but then you try to share with others to create more butts and seats and more people wanting to come see wrestling. Because that's what it's about. At the end of the day, we're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for the people who on the 1st of the month or the 15th or the 30th sometimes spend their last just to watch us take them out of reality just for a split second.
Yeah.
Damn, that's that is very, very beautiful said, and it definitely and that dovetails into the next question I have for you. You were recently ranked number 36 of the top 200 wrestlers to watch in 2024. What would you say makes this year's class so special?
Well, I want to address that list first and foremost because a lot of people got butthurt about it. No one said these were the best wrestlers. No one said these were the best promos. Nobody said any of these convoluted things that people got mad about. I heard too many people say people were in their DMs talking bad about them, saying how dare them be on this list. They don't deserve to be on this list. Well, obviously, you didn't stand out enough to make the list, first and foremost. Because there's some people on that list that you may not like their wrestling ability, but they get more social media plays than you do because they caught people's attention and they're creative. You may not like this person's wrestling gear, but their wrestling matches were enough to get on people's minds and eye. And to me, that list truly speaks on the potential that is right here in the precipice of our hands in wrestling. So to be in that list, to be in the top 40 of that list, you know, it lets me know that the work I've been putting in is finally getting noticed. Because December will make 7 years I've been doing this, and I've been putting in some work. Honestly, a buddy of mine was mad because there typically is like the black wrestlers list that they have out every single year. And my best year in wrestling, I didn't make the list. And one of my friends was pissed for me. And I was like, why are you mad? He goes, because you beat Suge D. You beat Marshe Rocket. You beat Yuya Uemura. You beat all these names from New Japan and MLW and Impact. You have 5 championships right now you're holding. They're in 3 different states. They're in 3 different time zones. How can they not notice you? And I said, because sometimes when we have these good years, sometimes our best years are for us. Like my mentor is Suge D. And Suge D himself said to me, my best years, I've been left off of the list. And my worst years, I was ranked higher than I should have been. Just be grateful and keep putting the work in. Because when you become so undeniable that the lists come to you, you don't got to worry about whether you do or don't make a list. And honestly, just be grateful for those who make it. Like that's part of the problem with professional wrestling is we, in the locker rooms, we call each other brother and sister, and we say that we're a wrestling family, but we're not. So many people are so stuck on self that you can't even clap for others, you know, while you're crying, I guess is the best way to say it. There may be times you're down and you're sad, but you can clap for other people. You can show love for other people. You don't have to always be the one winning. Like when I made that list and I saw where I was ranked, if that actually means that's the ranking of orders, I don't know that. Maybe that just happened to be on that number 33, but maybe I'm ranked 500. I don't know. But in the day, for me, I saw so many of my friends and my buddies and my peers and people I was simply proud of to see that list. My mindset wasn't, oh, what about me? Or I should have been ranked higher. My mindset was, man, look at my friend getting noticed. Because sometimes you got to clap for others even when you're crying. And sometimes you got to be appreciative of what you have. So to me, that list talks about the potential. Like I saw Larkin was on that list. Lovely Miss Larkin was on that list. I saw Lexi Green was on that list. They're both doing great creative stuff right now when it comes to promos and whatnot. I saw my homie Myron Reed on that list. I saw Mickey Midas on that list. I saw Alex Kane, Alex Kane was just coming off of an MLW heavyweight title run. And like, I saw a lot of people on that list that I saw my homie Shaq Jordan on that list. And the thing is, there's so many people throughout the Midwest in Kentucky, Kentuckiana, if you will. There's people on different coasts and things like that. So it's like, just be appreciative, just be grateful, and give people their flowers. You don't got to have a stick up your butt all the time. Sometimes you need to take wrestling seriously, and sometimes you need to let wrestling be what it is. And that is a bunch of grown adults wearing spandex, fighting over a belt that none of us probably are actually going to wear because everybody wants to be Roman Reigns and drape it over their shoulder, or whatever. It's just show love. Love the business that you're in. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
And I think that's
I
something
agree.
that we try to talk about on this podcast is, the IWC sucks. Everybody on there sucks, and it's if you like wrestling, then why are you complaining about it? Like, just you're allowed to have your opinions, and that's fine. But we can have them in a civil discussion. You don't need to go after
In a
anybody's
constructive
family.
manner, also.
Yeah, you just I get it. Some things I don't like, and Eric and I disagree on things, but
Yeah.
we still enjoy wrestling at the end of the day. So I really enjoy that message that you just shared with us.
You know what I think the problem is? Because it's wrestlers too. I hate to
Mm-hmm.
say it. It's not just the fans. It's wrestlers too. I have a buddy named Phil Early. He left wrestling. He may be coming back, and if he does, I can't wait to kick his ass again. But there was this really, really cool message he said during the pandemic. And it was, people say they love wrestling, but they don't. They love their place in wrestling and what wrestling does for them. If people loved wrestling, they would try to give back and do more for this thing they love instead of worrying about what it can do for them. And I think that's the issue. I think fans in many ways have become entitled. And it's because of wanting, the different companies to listen to them and forgetting how to be fans. I think wrestlers have become entitled and self-absorbed and a whole bunch of other stuff. And some of these wrestlers either need to learn how to be professionals in professional wrestling or maybe go back to being a fan and sit on the other side of the guardrail. And I say this with love and respectfully because, first of all, wrestling isn't for everybody because the creeps and the ists and the phobes don't belong here. But there are places for many people in wrestling that don't require you to be on the other side of the guardrail. I mean, hell, like I'm a part of a podcast right now. On that podcast is also a wrestling manager and commentator and somebody who at one point in time was doing wrestling managing, but now is focusing on the behind the scenes stuff and the podcasting stuff because everybody knows that they have their own role in this thing that we love. And there's so many ways to give back, but too many people want to be the star of the show. And sometimes there's only so much room on the stage.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well said. You have been very vocal on social media about the importance of taking care of the ringside photographers that take photos of you and make you look good. Why do you feel that is such an underrated aspect of indie wrestling?
Well, because we a lot of times don't show respect to the invisible people. The referee is an invisible person unless they do something wrong to make themselves visible. So shout them out when they're doing their job. The ring announcer who says your name correctly and says your nicknames and sometimes goes through the harassment of saying all your bunch of nicknames because I tell you, I know he's canceled, but David Starr's nicknames have nothing on me. Having the commentators who, when you actually send your footage out, make you sound like $1 million if they're doing their job right. But the photographers are so important because those promos and those stills and those action shots, those are some of the most common and best and easiest ways to promote yourself as a wrestler, as a brand. Sometimes those are the ways people get an idea of who you are. Sometimes they see a really good picture of you, and that makes them want to subscribe, to like, to share, to follow, to let people know who you are. And a lot of times, these photographers, they don't get paid sometimes like they should by the wrestlers or by the wrestling organization. And they do a lot of work to help advertise and promote these shows. And they deserve more love and more respect. And they deserve to be compensated as such because there is not a single part of wrestling that's not vital. And a lot of times we ignore the concession stand worker or the person doing sound or the person doing music or the cameraman. And when you ignore those people, you forget not only their importance, but you forget your place in wrestling because you get, so once again, that self-absorbedness. So I feel like you have to show love to photographers because sometimes these photographers are driving hours on hours for bullcrap pay or hours on hours for ungrateful people who might dirty up their backdrops or knock over the lights or bump into them during their entrance. And we don't often enough say thank you for being here. Thank you for making me look good or helping me look good. Thank you for capturing my good side. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, because you may be a parent or a grandparent, or you have stuff going on at home, and yet you chose to come here and help me be the superstar or the superhero or the supervillain I am. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to me, because like they really deserve that love. They deserve to feel like they're a part of the show, because sometimes the people a part of wrestling is just as much their escape as it is for the fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you certainly have me ready to think about that every time I go to a show, and seeing kind of what, that additional, crew and technical aspect is going through, and making sure that we see that they are putting in just as much work as everybody else in the ring. So, we absolutely love to see you take up that position and stand on that platform for them. So that was really cool. So we have been talking all things Paragon for about 25 minutes now, and as we look towards taking this interview home, we want to give you the opportunity to put the spotlight on a few other people. Give us 2 or 3 wrestlers that we can be on the lookout for in 2024.
All right, so wrestlers need to be on the lookout for 2024. I just wrestled him, whooped his ass too. Braden Lee. Braden Lee is a walking superhero. Like honestly, the way that homie is built and the way he wrestles, I feel like sometimes I'm wrestling Spider-Man. Dude is incredibly talented. He has an amazing look, and you guys definitely keep an eye out for him. And another person I want to shout out is Shaq Jordan. Shaq Jordan is out of Illinois. Homie is uber talented. I joke with them. I'm like, you look like if John Jones became a professional wrestler. But homie's uber talented. He's stupid athletic. He's very charismatic, and I truly believe that he is the future of professional wrestling. You need to keep an eye out for him. And I'm trying to shout out people that I think need more eyes on them. Not saying that there's not a bunch of people that need more eyes on them, but there's some people who have eyes on them and just need more, versus some people who they need that first set of eyes first. So I definitely would say those are people you want to keep an eye out for: Braden Lee and Shaq Jordan.
Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, we're wrestling fans. We're looking for new wrestlers to watch. So that's perfect. All right, you're going to help us settle a debate. I'm hoping that you're on my side of the debate, but we will see.
Okay.
When you think Mr. WrestleMania, is it Shawn Michaels or is it The Undertaker?
I just had this debate with somebody, so that's the part that
Oh man, here we go.
Love this.
And granted, we had this debate because I was like, if Shawn Michaels is Mr. WrestleMania, is Kofi Kingston not Mr. Royal Rumble? Because people aren't talking about Shawn winning at WrestleMania. They're talking about the moments, the memories, and him stealing the show. And Kofi, for many years, was about, we're watching the Rumble for his Rumble save spot. Because a lot of times we felt we knew who was going to win, but we knew Kofi was in, so we're just watching it for Kofi.
Yeah.
How's he going to escape this time? So I'm like, is it a matter of winning? Is it a matter of the moments that you make? For me, I also look at the longevity of it.
Sure.
We didn't really start talking about the streak until I want to say around Edge.
Yeah.
Around Edge is when we actually started to truly acknowledge the streak being a thing. Whereas we were calling Shawn Michaels Mr. WrestleMania during the Brett days. So it's tough. I feel like it's subjective. If you're talking about who you want to say WrestleMania is synonymous with, to a point it became Shawn Michaels, but to another point it became Undertaker, because you got to remember, the beginning it was Hogan.
Yeah.
It went from Hogan to kind of nobody to Shawn, and then once Taker came around, I feel like he took it from him. But Shawn kept the moniker of Mr. WrestleMania, but I'm going to say Undertaker.
Man. What a swerve at the end. That was fantastic. Yeah. That was fantastic. I agree with you.
Who's on whose side?
I'm Taker.
I'm HBK, yeah.
Now, granted, it's tough for me. It's tough for me because, to me, right now, Mr. WrestleMania is Mrs. WrestleMania, and that's Bianca.
Yes.
Yeah. We talked about that on our
show.
So
I feel like, the term of Mr. or Mrs. WrestleMania, it goes in waves, and it's a matter of who's holding the mantle. The only reason why I say Taker is because when Shawn retired with his match with Taker, then it became, okay, now we have the streak. Who's going to beat the streak?
Yep.
And the thing is, the streak was longer than the time period of us having the Mr. WrestleMania thing. But it's hard because if you ask me who had more bangers between Shawn and Taker, I'm going to say Shawn.
Okay, that's fair.
And I'd argue with you, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. All right, hold on, because I know we're about to wrap up soon. Okay, so you would say that you feel like Taker had more classics than Shawn.
I enjoy some of Taker's matches more than Shawn's, yes.
Okay, so my question is, if you take out his matches with Shawn, what are you saying are Taker's classics?
Flair, Triple H, the 17 Triple H, the 27 Triple H, the Hell in a Cell, the Boneyard matches up there. The match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania 21 is very underrated. His match with Batista is very underrated at WrestleMania 23. Edge at 24. Like there are a handful besides the matches with Shawn that I would say.
I'm not saying ones. Granted, some of those I might debate with you.
And hey,
some of those I might debate.
That's what we're here for.
I feel like if Eddie hadn't passed away and we got that Shawn Eddie match, it would have been a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
I feel like if that match happened, then this wouldn't, for me, it would not be a debate of who was Mr. WrestleMania. But granted, it was rumored we almost had Eddie versus Taker. So I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those what ifs.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Also, Taker Punk. Throwing that out there. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's another one.
Taker Punk. Sorry.
Taker Punk.
They keep popping in.
I'll give you Taker Punk.
Yeah. Let's Paragon. We appreciate you joining us. This was an awesome conversation, and we definitely hope to have you back on our show soon. But before we let you go, tell everybody what you have coming up as far as events, and where can everybody find you on social media.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I'll be defending my Emerge Championship here soon. So the second weekend of March, I'll be defending my Emerge Championship. The following weekend, I will be at Frontline Pro in Wisconsin defending my battle championship. And the boy may be returning to Vegas. So keep an eye out. I may be returning to Canada. Maybe making a trip over the pond. So keep your eye out. Check my social medias, _Paragon on Instagram, the Paragon 23 on everything else. You can, if you're cool and you're not weird and you're not saying weird stuff in my DMs, you can add me on Facebook at Paragon Christoph St. James, or just add follow and subscribe to the Paragon page. I try to be very communicative. Just if don't spam me with responses because I'm busy. I have a life. I need sleep. Also, just don't be sending me weird stuff. If you send me weird stuff, I have a rule, okay? And if you send me 3 weird things, I'm blasting you on social media, okay? The first 2 times, I try to be nice. The third time, you didn't take the heed to my warning, and now I got to blast you on social media. Dave from Evansville, Indiana, who sent me videos of him and his wife and told me he wanted to do stuff to both of y'all. You know who you are. You're nasty. Find God or Buddha or whomever you pray to. You're nasty. But
yeah, no. Evansville's weird. I used to live in Indiana, and they were like, Evansville's a little weird one. But yeah, and we will check you out next time you're in Ohio. Eric and I will definitely come around and see it, or even OVW. We will definitely be there.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Paragon, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to do this again. For Paragon, for the podcast dad and Mr. Cincinnati, thank you so much for joining this special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast. We'll talk to you guys soon.